absolutely no doubt about that. They're taking their time thinking about it, and it will be the Lucian as their priority. So Cedrin will be playing that one. It seems that this is the pick that both teams are fighting over. Yeah, it doesn't feel to me like the AD carry is really the lane that's having the biggest impact in this series.
Definitely the mid lane is where we have to turn our attention, as well as the jungle matchup. Talked about Victor potentially being a priority. Misfits.
Victor Trundle, yes. Trundle wasn't banned. That's the big difference. We mentioned at the start of game one, the Misfits put a lot of value on Trundle. If it's available, they'll pick it, and it will either be top or support. It's actually played more in support than Alfari, but other than that, it's still a high priority for Misfits. So makes a lot of sense that they want to pick this up in the early rotation. But Euronics right now are getting a composition which is really strong, very well-rounded right now.
Definitely a lot of power picks here. The Braum Lucian power lane, putting a lot of focus on that bot lane. Maybe not as content to just let Magic Felix do what he wants in the mid lane, trying to get an advantage there. But the question is, do we just see Yuki go back to that Ezreal?
I would expect it to be the case. He's either that, or they're going to look to go for the Sivir and then move away, try and get the lane swap set up for themselves, like we saw in the last game.
If this were SK Gaming, I'd say they'd go for the Misfortune, but they'll play later today.
It's gotta be the Sivir or the Ezreal. I feel are the best options for Yuki right now. Ezreal's the safest, and when you've already got the wave clear in Victor, you don't necessarily need the extra wave clear from Sivir. The one thing that Misfits might be lacking if they go Ezreal is the engage. It depends on where they decide to put this Trundle.
Well, taking their time to figure this one out. Not exactly sure what they want out of the jungle. I'm excited to see if these picks finally get locked in, but obvious now with his hands on the rec side. This is something we saw Dan struggle with from Mouse Esports. We were really skeptical about the pick overall, and now I'm wondering, it seems like it's really strong in the hands of Wisdom. Do you think Obvious is going to be able to pick this one up pretty easily?
Well, statistically, he is the strongest jungler in the tournament. Very impressive highest KDA of all the junglers, highest kill participation, just highest roaming presence. He's just so impactful throughout the game, and he didn't demonstrate that on the Graves in the last game. So hopefully he can do that now with the rec side. The question is, how has he adapted to the rec side? Is he used to it? Has he seen it in scrims? Has he seen it in solo queue? Or is he just relying back? Has he been practicing it, or has he gone back and he's relying on his old rec side days where he used to play it in the past?
Obviously a pick that's been adjusted a lot, fell out of popularity for a long time, but Misfits have completed their second rotation. Sivir is going to be the lock-in for Yuki, straying away from that Ezreal. You wanted engage. Misfits look like they're set to give it to you. It is that Maokai in the top lane.
I think that this is a perfect teamfight composition coming out from Misfits right now. You have the Maokai and Trundle to act as your solid front line. Now they can move towards a little bit more damage in the jungle if they want to. They could go for a Lee Sin here. I think would be really cool from Wisdom.
I'm always excited to see Lee Sin.
We haven't seen him for ages. I got tired of him when it was Lee Sin, Jarvan, Elise for such a long time.
You're going real old school on that.
That's when I was a jungler. That was the era that I jungled.
That was the post just right after Zac got nerfed, because Zac was OP up there for a while, and then he got nerfed, and then suddenly it was the rise.
The warrior enchantment, that +5 AD. So nice solid front line. They just need that teamfight presence now. I think that with the Sivir towards the late game, you have nice damage, but you need something in the mid game to help you in these team fights. Victor's going to be really good with his 2-item spike with the Hex Core and the Abyssal, and the Graves actually works nicely. He is going to offer that mid game damage that they need.
And with that final lock, and you're right, the warrior enchantment just giving Graves, it feels like everything he needs in that early to mid game, as well as those not quite as insane base damages. They have been tuned back a little bit over the course of the last few patches, but still very much a powerhouse. And we really got to wonder, I feel like this is a little bit of disrespect coming in from Wisdom. Feels comfortable in that matchup. He's just going to play the other side.
He's just like, okay, let me show you how it's done. So Azir is actually going to be back now for the side of Euronics. We talked about it earlier on.
One game break. One game that he has not seen anything.
He is now back. The Emperor has returned, and it's going to be in the hands of MagiFelix. We discussed it. We said, are you going to put priority on the Victor and deny Selfie perhaps a comfort mid, but giving them Lucian in return? It looks like Euronics did say, we want Lucian, so they've returned now to the Azir. So you're going to have the ever so exciting Azir versus Victor matchup, the one that we all wake up in the morning for and are ready to see. But on the side of Euronics, they also have a pretty good teamfight composition. Their engage is going to very much rely on the Rek'Sai setting up a flank. You can also go for the Shurima Shuffles. We have seen some phenomenal Shurima Shuffles this tournament. But I expect this to be an exciting game, and hopefully ESG have solved their problems.
ESG shifting things up just a little bit in the champion select. You can see that they are now on the blue side. Misfits on the red. They're up 1 win. They're looking to make it 2-0. ESG determined to fight back here, though. With the picks changed, I think you're right. This is very different. No longer is it the story of unconventional mid lane picks. This is the tried and true, the Victor Azir, one we saw for so long, one we're determined to see again as the trades are already coming out. But doesn't look like we're going to have the swapped lanes this time around. Looks like both sides are content to just keep this in standard lanes.
Just for the time being, right now, everybody's just doing their standard line of scrimmage, just looking at each other, eyeing their opponent up, trying to figure out how mentally stable they are right now after what was a very crushing defeat in Game 1.
I thought you were going to say crushing defeat about Sivir not quite killing that ward. And I was like, I don't know if it's that crushing.
No!
Yeah, but of course, Game 1 just absolutely one-sided. Misfits finding early advantages. And
is this Game 1? Because I swear this is exactly what happened in Game 1. Sivir and the support looking for a lane swap. The Lucian reading it and trying to match it. So we are going to see standard lanes. Even though we're going to see Australia lanes, they are still standard. And we are going to see a little bit of double jungling. What I do want to keep my eyes on is whether or not Dreams makes the same mistake that he did last time and giving up his flash very early on.
Of course, have to wonder if they're going to be able to punish that Braum. Lucian a little bit stronger. No longer is there range support in the mix, so it's just melee on melee. Of course, looking towards the bottom lane, one of the big picks over the course of this tournament has been that Gnar. Phones picks it up once again, but not against the Echo this time, against the Maokai, a much less mobile pick. Yeah,
definitely. The Phone should have an easier time against the Maokai, but saying that, we have seen Alphari bully Echoes around on the Maokai, so I don't want to invoke the caster curse too early on. But Phones, he should, matchup-wise, find this easier. The Gnar definitely has the advantage over the Maokai, especially in the early game when you have that range advantage. Also, when you have his passive on his W, you can get a lot of damage, get a lot of poke down. But this bottom lane / top lane matchup right now is so difficult for Misfits. The Lucian Braum is such a powerful duo lane, especially when you're going up against a Trundle who can offer very little in terms of the 2 versus 2 matchup.
And you see Trundle doing his best to trade out here, but Sivir just going to start pushing that lane. She knows they can't win those fights, can't deal with those concussive blows coming in from Braum. And Obvious, off to a good start here so far in the jungle. Maybe they're looking to put those tunnels to use and try to find a flank here.
It does seem that way. He is now level 3. He does have the red buff. He's going to wait a little while for the tunnel, or he might just go right now.
Spell shield already used. No option for Sivir to dodge this knockup. Flash comes out. Dreams knocked up, looking for red. First blood. They have the red buff. It's ticking down. Just going to have to back off there in the end, but ESG already making proactive plays here.
This is what you need to do on the Rex side. He picked up his red. He didn't need the blue. All he needed was his level 3. He goes over the ward knowing that Misfits didn't have any vision there. He goes over the Baron wall, sorry, and sets up a very nice flank. Burns all of the summoners of the bottom lane for Misfits. So now all they need to do, oh, hang on, check out the mid.
Wisdom moving in, looking to make some plays here. Felix, good movement coming in. And that shifting sands, pairing all 3 of those abilities together to make it to safety. A little bit of a visual bug there, but Azir does make it out in the end. Obvious not quite as comfortable to take this blue. Wisdom moving in. This is the aggression that Obvious tried to lay down last game. Now it's in favor of Wisdom this time around. Is going to get the smite down and grab that level 4. Obvious backing up here. Braum on the way, though. Wisdom knows he's overstayed his welcome. Just a quick draw over the wall.
So smart from Wisdom. He realized that the gank from Obvious up in the top lane had no blue buff, so Wisdom felt like that he could go for the contest. And while Obvious has been trying to set up the plays, he doesn't get a gank in the early game. He does burn a lot of summoners, but now Obvious needs to keep this pressure up, because if he doesn't, Wisdom's going to keep farming up a storm, and he will get to a point where he just straight up outscales the Rek'Sai.
Hadon and Sidrian see Graves, but they're not going to back off quite yet. Stand behind me, says the Braum. Happy to make it to safety on that one, but Wisdom just trying to lay down as much pressure as possible. No CC this time with the Graves pick, but just rinsing and repeating here. Lucian backing up, trying to make it out. Is going to have the dash in the end, but Wisdom no longer is there cast into the mid lane, and a huge shift in where he chooses to apply his pressure.
Certainly seems to be the case. Wisdom trying to help out his bottom lane. He knows that Yuki and Dreams have no summoner spells, so he just wants to make sure that his presence is known against ESG, and he's just saying, okay, you want to set up a gank onto my duo lane? Well, you're going to have to go through me to get to them. So his jungler just taking care right now of the lanes that are struggling a little bit.
And doing well as well. You can see a small CS lead. Graves with that, stealing away that blue buff has given him that small advantage, but the rest of the lanes I would say relatively even, but you can see Phones putting the aggression or the aggressive power of this Gnar to good work as he's approaching that 10 CS lead here. And now, I think Obvious gearing up to try to force a gank out. He sees Alphari's low mana bar.
He's putting a little bit more priority on trying to invest vision around this Infernal Drake. I believe only 2 Drakes were actually picked up in the last game, and this is something that we've noticed from Misfits, where they don't actually put that much priority on the Rift Herald or even very early Dragons. They don't value it over things like the turrets, over winning these early skirmishes, because as very mechanically powerful individuals, what they want are kills, because kills give them gold, and with more items, they have more opportunities to make plays. So
Kills give them more kills?
Exactly.
That's what they want. They want the cycle.
Exactly
of course,
what they want.
Waited last game till about level 7 on that Rek'Sai to take down the first Drake. It got up to 3 dragons in the end, but really just taking those objectives as consolation prize and no priority whatsoever placed on the Rift Herald from either side. I would say a little bit surprising given the popularity of Gnar and given how oppressive Gnar can be once he does have that Glimpse of the Void buff.
Well, you mentioned that Misfits, even though they have Alphari who loves to be that solo player on the island, Misfits are actually the team that have the lowest priority on Rift Heralds out of all of the teams. I think they've only actually taken 1 Rift Herald out of all 5 of their games. So they're really just not at all interested in that buff. And they've just basically said, well, Alphari doesn't need it. It's cheating if he gets that buff.
Not really a fun lane anymore.
That's not a quote, by the way. That's not a quote.
He wants the 1v1, no tricks, right?
Yeah,
and a
exactly.
20-minute buff. A little bit kind
No
of
holds
distorts
barred.
it.
We don't need buffs. We just need good old-fashioned top lane battle. As MagiFelix just being a little bit obnoxious in this mid lane. So we say that this mid lane is standard, but let's talk about it. Because Azir versus Victor is actually, or can be, very difficult for the Victor, especially early on before he's had an opportunity to get that upgraded Hex score, because Azir has a little bit more reliable poke compared to the amount of poke that Selfie can put out. Ooh. Okay, so he went forward and back, yeah. Ooh, tricky. Magi doing a bit of magic there for us. As, but yeah, moving back towards the mid lane, the Azir can be quite obnoxious during the laning phase, because now the changes to Victor mean that it's actually very hard for him to land the second proc of his death ray. It's got such an increased downtime as Cedrum takes a bit of damage.
Yep, is going to be the trade coming out, but at the end of the day, just a trade of blows there. Focusing back in, you can see Selfie, despite those changes to that death ray, still comfortable to just push out as Cedrian wasn't satisfied with the earlier trade, is going to burn the Culling there just to lay down some extra damage.
Yeah, and the reason why I want to bring up the mid lane is because Selfie, even though he's being pushed under his turret, has still decided to go for the Dark Seal. Now, I've had a chat with a couple mid laners, and they actually believe that going for the Dark Seal second over a Doran's Ring can actually add quite a lot of value, especially if you sell it later on. So you should see a little bit more priority on it moving forward. But on the Victor, given as to how easy it is to actually for him to pick up things like the assists and be involved in these team fights, I think that it can add a lot of value to Selfie in the mid.
And we got to say, things are starting off very well for ESG this time around. No kills given up, but the farm leads continuing to grow. About 10 CS in the mid lane for Azir. A little bit more than that on the bottom lane, top lane, bottom lane, for the Lucian, using that aggression to good use, and the Gnar as well, really pulling out these early game leads. And the big question is, what are they going to do with these?
That's exactly it. And we have to remember that in game 1, by 11 minutes, Misfits had 4 kills on the board. It was a pretty crazy early game. Now, Misfits moving back a little bit more, demonstrating that, okay, we've played a pretty heavy early game. Now we're going to be moving more towards a mid-late game sort of composition. ESG are really the team that need to build up this early advantage. With the Lucian that they have, likely going to go towards the Ghostblade Black Cleaver build that we've been seeing more and more from Lucians these days. As well as Obvious playing on this Rek'Sai, also going for the Chilling Smite, picking up that early Warriors enchantment. ESG need to get an early advantage that they can then tunnel into setting up their Azir in the mid and late game.
Slowly building those advantages, slowly working up that Azir. Nothing major quite yet. Selfie doing a really good job to trade out here. 2 soldiers already down. MagiFelix, Chaos Storm just a bit too slow. He's going to hop over the wall to make it out safely. But Selfie now free to move down to try to punish Obvious here. Wisdom dishing out a lot of damage. Tunnel already used. It's just going to be a lot of blows laid down. Not going to be a whole lot of advantages gained, however. But Misfits maybe losing out on farm, but they are starting to get a little bit more aggressive as we approach this mid-game, kind of as expected.
They certainly are. Not very much prioritization put around the Infernal Drake as of yet, as Definitely, I would argue, one of the favored dragons that you'd want to be putting a little bit more emphasis on. And as I say that, just have a look at the positioning of Obvious right now. He's going to spot out Wisdom in the top half of the map. He may use this as an opportunity for ESG to get collapsed on.
Exhaust goes down. Hado trying to run to safety. Stand behind me. Resistance is being taken away. Wisdom has a decent amount of damage here. Red buff ticking. Flash forward from Dreams. They're moving in, but the exhaust is on Graves. Unbreakable's up. Wisdom pushing back.
Ooh.
Not going to get enough damage down. Inches away from going down for Hado, but is going to make it out safely.
Good setup from Misfits to get that collapse down onto ESG, who are a little bit overextended up in the lane, but because they weren't able to get themselves a kill off the back of it, ESG are going to be able to get themselves the Infernal Drake in return. The question is now, can ESG defend this tier 1 turret from Misfits?
Moving in, Tedrian going to dodge out. Shotgun blast from Grace, but Nar's coming to the top lane. Maokai's coming as well. Mega Gnar on the way. They have to be careful. That's 2 into the wall. Knocked down as Dreams is going to go over for first blood. Alfari could be next. Magifelix pushing him back into the chaos, and the tree gets burned down as well. Great play from ESG.
Really nice response from ESG, but the action's not over yet.
Obvious flash forward, knock up, knocked out. Wisdom drops as well. That's going to be 3 kills picked up. Now a 2K gold lead. Explosive play from ESG.
So Misfits, they set up to take that tier 1 in the top lane. Now ESG, they have a limited number of options given that Hado, he was just forced to go back. Cedrian was low on mana, so he couldn't really do anything, and he did not have his culling available, so he couldn't clear the wave out. 3 members strong from Misfits. What do ESG do? Well, they go for the teleport play. Phones, he has his Mega Gnar about to come up. He knows that with that, he can fight something against Misfits, or at the very least act as a disengage tool. Misfits, though, they want to respond. They feel like they have the numbers advantage, but then they split up. For some reason, they divide their focus, and you're going to see that come out in this replay. So the double teleport comes out. Look at the charge on Phones. Yuki is disengaging while the rest of Misfits are running a completely opposite direction. That ends up ESG being able to just turn it into a 2 versus 3 rather than a 4 versus 3. And then with the introduction of Magifelix from the flank, they get themselves 2 kills. Wisdom, he takes the greedy route to safety, and he ends up giving away his life as well. So ESG picked themselves up 3 quick kills, which was a very smart, decisive play.
Yeah, but looks like Wisdom not too happy with that quite yet. Mega Gnar on the way. Are they going to attempt the dive here? Looks like they're just going to back off. Too much CC. Gnar ultimate on the way. Not going to come out quite yet, but ESG shifting things up here. They got absolutely crushed in game 1, but now they're making moves to come out ahead. And you can see every member of the team hitting that 1-item breakpoint. Youmuu's coming out for the Lucian, Nashers for the Azir, Warrior, and Black Cleaver for the jungler and top laner. So things are going well.
Certainly are. Selfie putting more value on the Hex Core rather than rushing the Abyssal Scepter. I think that's more of a personal preference choice. I like to get the Abyssal as soon as possible. I feel like you only need the Hex Core Mark 1, as Dreams now getting collapsed on.
Good news about upgrading the Hex Core, of course, is that if you get that perfect Hex Core, it does up the movement speed on that ultimate, so you can chase people down just a little bit better. However, it does make it much harder to trade with the Azir. Farm is evened out in the mid lane. Farm lead for the Maokai on the top, but the Lucian lead just continues to extend with that incredibly powerful Youmuu's. Tower poised to fall here.
So I'm keeping an eye out on itemization. We are actually seeing the Tracker's Knife come out from Wisdom. So as opposed to the Skirmishes Saber that we saw from Obvious in game 1, Wisdom is saying, I need a little bit more vision. I want to be able to pick up that Tracker's Knife. It's not gold efficient for me to go for a Sightstone. I mean, what am I going to do as an AD carry with that item? Whereas Obvious can get away with it. He benefits a little bit more from the tanky stats given the playstyle of that Rek'Sai. So he's going to stick with that more, or that build that we saw from Wisdom in game 1. He's going to be looking to get a little bit of deep vision down, and this is the big difference that we've noticed from Obvious compared to Wisdom. Obvious is playing more on his side of the map. He's trying to make sure that his laners are safe and that his vision is very much centered about keeping his laners protected. Whereas Wisdom was very much about getting deep vision, looking for plays that Misfits can make. And speaking of plays, Magi rotating up to the top might be looking one for himself.
Just making sure they can take that tower safely. Of course, 3 members of Misfits not quite comfortable enough to defend there. Tower health bar just a bit too low, but focusing in on that vision, as you said, you can see ESG really taking control of the top side. That's 4 pink wards. They're 5th in the bottom to help protect the Gnar. Wisdom securing his own red buff, but you can see how quickly he's losing control of that jungle.
Yeah, he is starting to, and now that Obvious has Hado with him, he's basically saying, okay, I feel a little bit confident, a little bit more confident. Let's move forward. Let's press our vision advantage and let's press our gold advantage, because 15 minutes in, ESG looking completely different to how they did in game 1 of this series. And the real question is, how will Misfits respond? Because they're now the ones on the back foot. They do have a great teamfight composition, and as the game moves forward, they will scale relatively well. So it's going to be interesting. Can ESG make the moves, and can Misfits buy enough time?
Misfits definitely just trying to stall this one out, giving up a tower here and there, dropping some objectives across the map. 3K gold lead in the favor of ESG. Misfits not making too many mistakes, though. They mostly stopped the bleeding. A few kills here, there, a few towers in the early game. Not giving too much else up. Definitely a rough road, I think, to take it to the late game, but they're not nearly as down and out as ESG were last time around.
Okay, so now I'm looking at Selfie's build, and I'm downing it a little bit more because he's decided to actually go for the Morel Nomicon. Now, since the changes to the items on patch 6.9, while Morello is definitely good on Victor, adds a lot of value, getting the early Abyssal into the Rylai's, I feel, just gives so much more to your team fighting power. You're delaying that spike by going for the Morello, because now it's harder for you to get onto that front line, harder for you to maximize your damage, and you're delaying something. You're either delaying the Abyssal or you're delaying the Rylai's, which is so key for your ultimate. So going for the Morello, following the Hex Core, I'm not a massive fan of. We'll have to see how things pan out, as ESG, they're going to pick themselves up a second tier 2 turret.
Yeah, Poison takes this one down. Alfari may have overcommitted here, trying to flash out, is going to get knocked up in the end, then stunned up by concussive blows. Not at all what they wanted. ESG grab a tower. Gnar doing his best on the top side to defend, and at the end of the day, ESG once again emerge victorious.
So Misfits not really respecting the positioning. Ooh, look at Phones.
Up goes in. Phones, Mini Gnar going to come out. He may have overstayed his welcome here. Going to try to use that movement speed, but Wisdom, not enough speed in the kit to make it to safety. Pillar pushing Phones forward, but Yuki going to take him down in the end. Bloodbaths on both sides of the map.
But now ESG, even though they get themselves a couple kills, and even though they're likely going to get themselves this dragon, they could very well lose their tier 2 turret in the top. But no, Misfits decided to disengage, decide that it's too risky to commit for. So ESG actually gaining significant advantages all across the map. That all starts because Alfari moves back to the bottom lane. Misfits should have read that ESG would rotate their bottom lane back to that lane. There's no need for Cedrin and Hado to keep pushing a lane that has no turret in it. So Misfits should have responded by sending their bottom lane there too. They needed to deal with the strong side of the map that ESG had, and because they didn't, that set Alfari up to get dived, and he ended up getting dived on his tier 2. So really, Misfits just gave away 2 completely free turrets as well as kills that they just didn't need to do.
And additionally, that second Infernal Drake in the favor of ESG, that's 16%. Bonus AD and AP coming in for this lineup. This lineup that already scales so well into the late game. And it has to be scary because our next Dragon spawn as well is going to be that third Infernal Drake, and it feels like there's suddenly a big timer over the head of Misfits. They need to make something happen.
The thing is, it's this 20-minute mark that ESG's composition really starts to shine, because I'm expecting the Rylai's to come out from MagiFelix. He's going to have that big AP item as well as the Nash's Tooth to give him all the damage that he needs once we reach this point in the mid-game, alongside Cedrian, who's also going to be completing that Black Cleaver and Yomu's Ghostblade, on top of the Rift Herald, which this is the most cost-efficient time to get it, because that's now going to last all the way up to 38 minutes into the game. And if he's decided to go for the Mastery Point, it may even last all the way up to 41 minutes. So really cost-efficient and really well played from ESG.
Absolutely dominating. And we can see still just 3K gold difference, but let's take stock of the buffs that ESG have. Let's take a look at that top laner Phones. Yes, he just has the Black Cleaver, but he has 16% additional AD and AP, 5% damage reduction, and essentially a free additional static shiv. And for Maokai, this guy who is fine in farm, but quickly falling behind in terms of stats, this is just going to be crushing to try to play against.
So Alfari's KDA is Dunzo. He has only died 4 times in 5 games. Well, 6 games now. I believe that... Oh, he had 1 death last game, so he's died 5 times in 6 games, and now he's died twice. This is the most he's ever died throughout the entire tournament in a single game.
Not at all where you want to be, and I think, you know, honestly, Alfari, you said he doesn't play with a whole lot of respect for the opposition, thinks he can beat just about anybody, showed it last game, but this time around got over-aggressive.
Well, it was more to do with the matchup, really. I mean, it's Gnar into Maokai. You kind of struggled to put any kind of pressure, and Wisdom wasn't able to offer the same sort of support that he could in Game 1. And I think what we're now seeing very quickly is sort of an in-series meta develop, where Graves is not a good pick into Rek'Sai jungle because you simply cannot match the early gank pressure that Rek'Sai can offer.
Of course, no CC in the kit. Farms up, maybe gets more damage, but not what the team needs in the early game. ESG moving to take down their 4th tower of the game, extending that gold lead to 4K, pushing through this jungle to try to get down a bit more vision as well.
So, Selfie has decided to put a little bit more priority on the Rylai's. I like this more. He's going to have a little bit more team fight damage with his ultimate that's going to be much easier to stick onto those targets. As we're actually posturing around the dragon, which not entirely sure why both teams are doing this. ESG now not in a great position to defend that mid turret, and Misfits are actually in a great situation to force a fight right now.
Oh, Haddow potentially caught out here. Gravity Field goes down, looking for the disengage, not going to land on anyone. But Wisdom potentially caught out, moving forward. Slow goes down. Azir can make plays, but TV comes in from the backside. Dreams drops instantly. Chaos Storm hoping to pick up some cleanup kills. Yuki waiting off to the side. Phone's running in. Rylai's stopping his advance in its tracks. The damage just continues to come out from ESG, and nothing really looks to be set up to stop them.
Misfits were in a perfect position to force a fight right there. They had everything that they needed. They even had the teleport from Alphari if they wanted to make it, but they don't commit. They actually decide to disengage as Magi.
Oh, it's not what you want. Alphari getting punted into the AD carry and just as quickly burned down. ESG taking, oh, not quite another kill. Selfie flashing to safety, but Gnar's just going to return to pushing in the top lane, and there's just too many problem areas for Misfits to deal with. They're going to have to give something up here.
Wow, Alphari thought that he could get the pick, but there just was no follow-up from the rest of his team. They didn't have the damage, he didn't have the support, and now ESG, they're going to commit to this tier 2 turret in the mid.
Oh, Maokai coming in. No, the Victor instead TPing in. Maokai still down and out. Moving forward, Yuki is just going to get blown up there. The Azir damage already overwhelming, only 2 items into his build.
So this is a situation that Magi way prefers compared to Game 1. Selfie's not allowed to be that individual carry like on the Assassin of Kassadin. When they're put into these 2 teamfight mages, this is the opportunity that Magi has been looking for to strut his stuff. And he has been playing very well. His positioning has been very good. The use of the ultimate at the very end of the teamfight, actually holding it earlier on, was exquisite. And now ESG currently sitting at 8-1, sitting at a nearly 7,000 gold lead, are looking like a completely different team compared to their Game 1 performance.
Yeah, and we can see Selfie still always a KDA king here, but this time around it's 0-0-0.
Yeah.
The perfect scoreline, not quite the one you want, however. Not able to make the impact in the early to mid game. Azir not struggling at all. And moving forward, Dragon spawning in 30 seconds. This is the 3rd Infernal Drake, as we touched on earlier. Vision going down for both sides, but ESG have to feel pretty confident to take this one.
It has to be a big point of contention moving forward. Remember that Misfits do have a great team fighting composition. The problem for them is Yuki is so far behind. He is 1-1 right now. He's yet to complete his 2nd major item. As I said, that he's just completed his rapid fire cannon. But really where Sivir comes into her own is when she completes that 3rd item. And once that is finished, it's Selfie.
Shuffle in. Selfie's gonna drop instantly. Haddow looking for Wisdom. Exhaust goes down. Rek'Sai on the flank. Gotta go in. Knock up pops through. Misfits suddenly in the meat grinder. Haddow set to drop, but he's making it out to safety.
Still alive.
Not so lucky. Dreams. He just wants to play. He just wants a kill. He's going to grab one, but his life is the price, and it's 12-2 now. Misfits getting dominated.
Magi Felix with the Shurima shuffle gets the pick down onto Selfie. Misfits feel like they can defend, but it just isn't enough because Wisdom's the next to go down. ESG just demonstrating their power in Game 2, and they want to take us to a full series right now as ESG picking themselves up the Baron 24 minutes into the game, looking just as strong as Misfits did in Game 1.
This is why you see those Azir bans in the hands of players like Magi Felix, making the plays, dishing out the damage, the character doing everything you need from a mid laner. On top of the Baron, looking for that 3rd Infernal Drake. 40 additional AB and AP from the Baron buff. 24% on top of everything else as they pick this up. They're backing off with the empowered recalls. The gold lead extends to 9K, and absolutely everything is in favor of ESG.
Yeah, I mean, really nice play coming out from Magi Felix, getting that pick down onto Selfie. Wisdom sticks around a little bit too long, and It's just a fantastic collapse from ESG. Alfari coming in from the flank, thinking they have enough, but this is what we were talking about with Civish. He doesn't have the damage at this point in the game to turn anything around for Misfits, and the front line have no damage to support them, so Misfits just end up collapsing, and Misfits are running out of answers right now. We talked about how ESG have the good early to mid-game comp. The mid-game is where they want to try and force fights, whereas Misfits need to delay, they need to stall, they need to be waiting more towards that 30-minute mark before they look for that kind of an opportunity. And they haven't been able to do it. ESG super proactive, finding the picks that they needed. And now with the Baron buff, they've got all the tools in their kit to close out this second game.
Absolutely do. Moving in, Misfits just doing their best to pick up what of their jungle they can. Wisdom hoping to grab this red buff, but it is going to be the split push. Gnar taking up some time on the bottom side, threatening that inhibitor tower, but the rest of the team going to take down this tier 2 effortlessly. Cedrian running forward, using the culling, bullying off the remaining members, and they're pushing for the inhibitor now.
So, MagiFelix has 419 ability power with 3 items. That's kind of disgusting. I mean, with the Baron buff as well as the 3 Infernal Drakes, like Baron gives you additional ability power too. Yep. It's insane how much value they get from having those buffs.
Absolutely. And moving forward, you got to wonder what Misfits can really do here. Gnar just taking his time, building up these waves, ready to use the Baron buff, the Glimpse of the Void, the triple Infernal Drakes. There's not a buff this man doesn't have.
Oh my word. And I mean, you thought 419 ability power was scary. 330 AD on top of Cedrian. He's only got 2 items. 2.5.
Gnar has 1 AD item and is at 236.
Oh my word. Misfits should have put a lot more priority on that Infernal Drake. And now you're starting to see this prioritization of Misfits start to fall behind. We talked about how in game 1, they actually put very little value on things like the Rift Herald and the Dragons. And now you're actually seeing the value of those neutral objectives, because if you get them, you can really push your advantage very early on into the game.
Do you want a slightly disgusting fun fact?
Go ahead.
We pursue?
I love disgusting fun facts.
Gnar has more attack damage than Sivir.
Wow. With
that,
one item.
That is simply terrifying. 190 to 226, I believe. And we're just seeing, Phones doesn't even care. Victor trying to get aggressive, Selfie trying to make a play here. Phone's slowly getting burned down, but the rage is ticking up too. Could try to see the 1v1 outplay. Oh my gosh, Alfari getting burned down. Culling comes in. Gonna step behind the Sivir to block something out, but the spell shield only blocking 1 bullet. And the tower tanking the rest from the team. Dreams knocked back. MagiFelix exhausted. They're trying to get the Trundle. Subjugate keeping him healthy. Yuki looking for the flank, but it's not enough. They are still gonna pick up the kill there. Over onto Wisdom. Moving in. Selfie trying to get something back. Gnar TPing in. He's ready to make a play. Hop. Not going to use it quite yet. Just turning Mega Gnar. Just going to burn through this inhibitor. Misfits maybe looking for the re-engage. This is a great opportunity for them. Pushing forward. Not going to find the opportunity quite yet. Moving in. Smack into the wall. That's 1. Dreams going forward. Alfari into the backline. MagiFelix shut down instantly, but Alfari's going to drop. Cedrian, does he have the damage? They're running. Phones moving forward, but Yuki is going to get the kill back. Hadow and Cedrian. Obvious. Off to the side. Last members standing. Obvious. No. Oh, no, you can't. Sneaking behind the back lines to grab this inhibitor. He has ultimate as well. He's just going to make the quick escape. You can watch him. Graves. Oh, the great cancel coming in. Obvious. Not a whole lot of roots out now. Will grab the inhibitor at the end, but that's the shutdown going over to Misfits.
So, yes, ESG, they get themselves the inhibitor overall, but they did have to invest quite a lot of resources to pick that objective up. It was a little bit of an overcommitment from ESG. I think they put a little bit too much priority on getting themselves kills over actually getting themselves the inhibitor. But because they get the inhibitor, you can't forgive them. Handing over 3 kills overall to, I do believe, 2 on the side of Misfits. Means that sitting at 14 and 5, ESG now, having picked up that inhibitor, an exposed inhibitor in the bottom, can actually just do a 1-4 setup with Phones in the bottom lane. They could even do it with Magi. Magi still has his teleport available to him. He can just sit in that lane, put a lot of pressure down, and then allow the super minions to siege up into the top. I mean, Misfits need to find a perfect 5 versus 5 fight at this point to find any sort of avenue back into the game. Sivir 3-1-1, working towards that 3rd major item. Once she gets it, maybe, but I think it's too little too late at this point.
Yeah, despite the impressive scoreline coming in from Yuki, it's just not going to beat the 6-0-8 Lucian. Extra BF sword, building towards what could be the Bloodthirster there. Has the rapid fire cannon in addition to that Black Cleaver Yomu's. And things just look grim for ESG. The shoe on the other foot this time around. Misfits really getting punished for over-aggressive play, and ESG at every corner seem to be predicting the moves coming in from Misfits and punishing accordingly.
I was a little bit concerned for ESG because I did think that given how convincing Misfits game 1 was, ooh, on the hunt gets popped.
Oh, Dreams running in. This could be the final fight. Great play from Matt Felix. Shuts down the bot line. Will he give up his life? Yes, Dreams moving forward. Both running in. Is going to get stunned by the concussive blows. Alfari's next on the menu, though. The remaining members of ESG, 4 strong, burning through the lineup. The double for Lucian. The triple for Lucian. This is going to be the game for ESG. And what a turnaround as the ace comes out. The Nexus is set to drop, and ESG evened it up 1-1.
Cedrian doing so much damage in that final team fight, getting himself the triple kill and ending on a score of 9-0 and 10. We are seeing why this Lucian has so much value, and we're also seeing why ESG have, well, I was a little bit worried about that Rek'Sai pick. Can Obvious actually play it? Is it something that he is still familiar with? Well, apparently he certainly is. A little bit of a slower early game compared to what we saw of Misfits, but they definitely made it work. And Magi, mad props to him for getting those crisp ultimates off throughout that game.
Yeah, not afraid to give up his life. He knew that they could get that kill. He knew that they had the lead, and if it meant shutting someone down early, he knew that they'd come out on top. And that's some pretty amazing play from him and the team overall. And I think we're seeing a shift in the pick ban. Azir, not picked or banned in game 1, and we're really have to be wondering why.
This is something that I love about Best of series, is how an in-series meta develops and how certain champions become really high in value and others lose value. And now you have to start wondering how much value is going to be put on this Rek'Sai. Because we've seen first picks for Lucian in game 1 and game 2. We've seen bans towards Lissandra. When do things start to change? When do you say, I no longer can afford to give you Rek'Sai? And when do you have to say, I would actually rather have a Rek'Sai than a Lucian? Because, to be honest, it does feel like Rek'Sai is the pick that's making the difference. And to be honest, I feel like the way to deal with it is actually just pick someone who can deal with the Rek'Sai, who can match his aggression. The Lee Sin, the Elise, maybe even the Jarvan. A little bit ambitious with that one, perhaps.
All right. Let's calm down at least a little bit. J4, I would love to see it, quite frankly, but I don't think we are. But I think you're correct. And I think this is, when we talked about it, we picked mid lane as our focus matchup. Yeah. We thought this would be the end-all, be-all. And it sort of was in both games in terms of...
I think both have demonstrated phenomenal plays.
In terms of scoreline. And in terms of individual teamfight performances, but we have to give credit to the people who are getting these teams ahead. And right now, that's the junglers.
It certainly is.
And Obvious going toe-to-toe with Wisdom, it looks like these guys are going to have to adjust their strategies because they're both making plays. But with that, the score now sits at 1-1 between Misfits and Euronics. It's going to be a rough road for both these squads to try to make this happen, but we will be right back after the break to find out exactly how it's going to go down.